Suzuki has waited 8 long years to debut a new GSXR-1000R. And I gotta say, Logan, I don't think the wait has been worth it.
I don't think so. I think we had Suzuki pegged from a mile away on this one.
Yeah, you actually might have the receipts for this one where you had clocked this as a Euro 5 Plus update. Bold new graphics, slight refresh, but you didn't count on bold new winglets,
I didn't count on the winglets. I don't expend much mental bandwidth thinking about winglets typically. But I mean, the proof was in the pudding. Already, we saw Suzuki do the same thing with the DRZ. We saw, not necessarily a Euro 5 thing, but we saw Yamaha give a sort of feigned update to the 2025 R1.
Yep.
So I felt like that's just where my heart was like, this is what Suzuki's going to do with the Gixxer. But
when Suzuki started releasing this information, they kind of hyped up this big new GSXR announcement. I was already getting worried because it was 40th anniversary. My bold new graphics alarms were already kind of ringing. I really thought we were going to get an update to the 750. I really believed that we were going to get this kind of like bike that really meets the moment, because the big question for me is, who exactly is this new GSXR for? I can't really make heads or tails of who would currently buy a new bike like this.
Yeah, I mean, like we were discussing, I think anybody who is particularly enthralled with the GSXR-1000 platform likely is already in ownership of one. I don't know how many young proto squids out there just wishing and wanting for a brand new 2026 model year GSXR 1000. Like, obviously, it's a great esteemed platform, but it's as the in the official announcement statement from Suzuki, they said they've made over 1 million GSXRs in the last 40 years, including the entire lineup. With that being said, there's probably 1 million out there to buy, you know what I mean? Or at least, a couple hundred.
One of the things that Suzuki people love to tell us in the comments, and sort of apropos of nothing, is how amazing it is that they're unchanged and super reliable, and like they've been the same for so long. That's why I can get so many parts. And so the flip side of that coin is, why would you get a brand new model year bike if they've been so unchanged for the last 8 years or so? And let's talk a little bit about the things that have changed. So Suzuki did release this motorcycle to meet new Euro 5 Plus emissions and noise compliance here in the US, I believe. And so it features a pretty reworked motor. It's got 13.8 to 1 compression ratio pistons, which is a very spicy ratio. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty high compression. Different valves for the exhaust, different sizing for them, and they've also revitalized the fueling system, new injectors. And the whole premise of this is like, Suzuki's going back racing, baby. We're gonna go in endurance. We're gonna go pilot out this machine. But the weird thing is, they didn't make a homologated special. It seems like this motorcycle was specifically designed for endurance racing, which is cool. That's very big in Japan. The Suzuka 8 Hour is a very prestigious event. World Endurance is very prestigious. But I don't really think Suzuki's like back to racing if they didn't make a homologated special a la the Fireblade SP or the R1M or the ZX-10R. Right?
Yeah, it seems very much like a street bike with maybe some untapped potential, but that's what they say. Like, who's going to be, I feel like it just completely defeats the purpose to buy a motorcycle that's, all reworked, has this like hidden potential locked away, and then have to spend all this time, money, flashing the ECU, changing the exhaust components, air filter stuff. Cause that's something that people have been saying in the comments of being like, cause we've been kind of poking around, seeing what the Suzuki people think about this announcement, is people are excited about how much, they're like, it's a little bit down on power now, but, when you really let that inline four scream, like, it's going to be a real ripper. It's like, but why?
Yeah.
I don't see any purpose at all for this. It's not like...
That's going to void your warranty. It's going to... What's funny about that, too, is, especially in Europe, they have extremely strict emissions compliance inspections every year and all these sort of things. Obviously, it varies by country. I understand Europe is not a homogenous region, but most countries in Europe, you can't just run like a full system exhaust and make it loud as hell or whatever. And so that to me would say, okay, it's for track performance then. I'm like, well, like, I don't really think this bike is all that competitive from a track bike perspective. Like the customer that wants an ultra spicy track ready motorcycle, I mean, Ducati's got your number, BMW's got your number. I don't really see the point in that specifically. And to your point about it being a road bike, damn thing still comes with the calculator TFT, no cruise control, horrendous ergonomics. So like, this is a good road bike just because it has VVT and some like longer stroke characteristics for the engine, gives it a little bit nice low end grunt. We've kind of moved past all that, I would say.
Yeah. So maybe road bike wasn't the proper term, but like a civilian bike, right?
Civilian bike,
for an average rider who just wants to go fast on their Suzuki versus a a motorcycle that you'd use in like as a Moto America platform or something like that. And it's interesting because even in Suzuki's announcement, like they make it a clear point to say, well, while all these updates are to meet emissions and noise restrictions, there is the potential for in racing applications to make these changes to unlock this power. Like it was very weirdly kind of cryptic allusion to, and I don't know if that was just sort of a way to dance around the emission stuff and be like, we literally just updated this bike so we could sell it in Europe again.
Yeah, that's really what it feels like. You know? The bold new graphics, winglets, and Euro 5 Plus compliance on a platform that is largely the same. To me, it just feels like they're just trying to sell stuff. I wanted to make a point about the TFT because I did see a lot of comments basically being like, oh, it doesn't need a TFT. Like, come on, like, it's fine. To what lengths are Suzuki people willing to defend, like, really quite a silly move, right? Like not putting a TFT on this bike when they literally already have the technology is kind of silly. And they say, oh, it's a race bike, it doesn't need it. I'm like, but when it has 19 different electronic controls, a screen literally just makes it easier to find all those settings. Like we have the Yamaha R9 right now. I can't even imagine trying to control all the Yamaha traction control settings with a damn like calculator looking great. It doesn't make any sense.
Game Boy looking ass.
Game Boy looking ass, man. Like it's not that people are just desperate to have like a flashy little screen. Is that it literally when the bike is that complicated, it just makes it easier to access all the sub menus.
Yeah, and the fact that they have the TFT dashes, like they got them in the factory. Like why
they already have them?
It was like a weirdly deliberate omission. That is kind of strange. And even when you look at like the photos of it, and it's like coded and like confusing, where it's like SDMS A1 plus. It's like, dude, I don't even know what that means. Like you have to have the manual out with like the code delineation of like what each thing means. It's
we
very
joke
bizarre,
that it feels like an old school synthesizer that has like sub menu upon sub menu, and you're like, how do I get back to that other thing, the other layer that I was in? It's decidedly old school. But it really represents that they were so sort of unwilling to update the bike in those areas, probably for cost reasons, right? And speaking of cost, this is something we see a lot. Suzuki is the affordable brand. They're the affordable, reliable, dependable brand. I said this in a comment reply on an older video. Where are the affordable Suzukis? We have $9,000 DRZ 400s. We have $13,000 GSXR 750s. Pricing has not been announced for this model, but we were looking at pricing for the other Japanese big leader bikes. They're all under 20 grand. I mean, you can get a ZX-10R for 17.5 or something like that.
Yeah, and the outgoing like 2025 model year GSXR 1000R is already like $19,000. So it's like, what are they going to update this bike to be, Euro 5 compliant and then sell it for cheaper than the outgoing one? That doesn't make any sense.
Zero chance. This bike's probably going to be like $19,999, which is then more expensive than an R1. It's more expensive than the other bikes. I think it's sort of like a cope and a myth that Suzuki makes these like super cheap bikes, because they don't. They simply don't. I talked about this in the comments where I was like, if you want cheaper bike, like Royal Enfield makes cheap bikes. Those are cheap bikes. CF Moto makes cheap bikes. Suzuki doesn't make cheap motorcycles. They're pretty high quality stuff, right? But the cope never ends, Logan. Like I actually saw someone saying that, well, they're hand built in Japan. That's what you're paying for quality. I'm like, you can't hold all these conflicting truths in your mind, Like the mental gymnastics are kind of insane at this point.
Yeah, it's just people's kind of perspective in the identity of Suzuki was just solidified 20 years ago, when like all these bikes were both awesome and very value driven, and that was sort of the core philosophy of the brand.
Yeah.
And then they've just never moved past that.
No.
And yeah, you mentioned it kind of at the top, but we were sort of anticipating, or not anticipating, but hoping, praying, wishing that in lieu of a Euro 5 GSXR 1000, we got a more updated GSXR 750, because that would be a bike that, yeah, as you tend to say, meets the moment quite a bit more of people wanting a bike that is fun, powerful, but still a little bit more usable and realistic in its power, and modern and affordable. Like, that would be what everybody wants, right? And in the era of, like, you know, the dying inline four aficionados would go nuts for like a modern updated GSXR 750.
Look at the response we got for our CF Moto 750 video.
Yeah,
people are chomping at the bit for 4-cylinder bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna lay out the groundwork for you, okay? And you guys feel free to clip this moment, because I'm gonna lay out what would be the most ideal move for Suzuki to make, okay? Not that I have any stake in the game or qualifications to make such a move. Here's all they got to do, Logan. This is all they got to do, okay? GSXR 750, same frame, update the motor to be Euro 5 Plus compliant. That's all you got to do for that. New bodywork that looks kind of like the GSX-8R. Give it crazy colors. People love the colorways. Go nuts with the colorways. Make it slightly more comfortable for road use. Give it those like kind of uprised ergonomics, but still make it to where you can put track ready clip-ons on it. TFT display, cruise control, you're done.
Yeah,
you're done. Sell that bike for 12 grand, 13 grand if you really need to. Ballpark it right around the R9.
Yeah.
You're done. That's it. Suzuki, that's all you got to do. Everyone would go fucking crazy for that bike.
Yeah,
they go crazy for it.
Yeah, and instead they put winglets on the GSXR 1000.
Yeah, man, that's it. I knew they would do this.
And
I saw the news this morning,
yeah.
And I was like, I knew this would happen.
Yeah, and it's always great to be proved wrong in like a positive way, right? If you are maybe have a more pessimistic outlook on a potential new motorcycle release, and then they hit you with something really awesome, really exciting, I would happily be proved wrong.
Yes,
but we were proved right, and I don't feel good about it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not that I want Suzuki to fail. That's quite the opposite. I think Suzuki has so much heritage and brand cachet, and I think back to like Kevin Schwantz and like the Lucky Strike days or Pepsi Suzuki. They have so much cool stuff they could do, but it is frustrating seeing this brand that's like barely making moves, especially when CF Moto's coming out with new engines every other day, and like Yamaha's doing cool stuff with the R9. Like, I don't know, man. It's just, I think some Suzuki people, they've got their heels dug in, and they're like, I will defend this brand. But I'm like, but at what cost? You know, apparently a high cost, a $9,000 DRZ.
Public
is the cost.
shame.
Public shame.
Yeah, the cost of having your reputation destroyed.
There was a guy on Discord actually when this news dropped. He's like a brand new GSXR 750 buyer, and he like wrote up some stuff about the GSXR-1000, and he's like, at the end he just wrote, I am embarrassed to own a Suzuki, you know.
Also, imagine if you bought, and obviously this is like a bunch of different hypotheticals, but imagine if you bought a brand new GSXR 750 like right now, and then in like 2 years they sold like an updated one that was better and also cheaper. Like how, like what would you
You'd feel like a
maybe
fool.
That's why they're not doing it. Maybe because they're like, people keep buying these, and if we update it, they're gonna be pissed that they got ripped off so bad.
That is fair. Like, I make the joke that I'm like, who the hell's buying these bikes? People are buying these bikes. I don't know why, but people are buying them, and there's something for everybody. But yeah, to your point, if they were to make like that better
what
bike,
the hell,
like
dude?
Suzuki ripped me off, man.
Maybe having to do like buybacks or something.
I don't know Suzuki's margins, but that 750 has been bought and paid for R&D wise a long time ago.
Yeah, certainly.
Long time ago. I bet the margins on that bike are fat.
Yeah, over a million units on the GSXR platform in the last 40 years. It's a lot of bikes.
It is. Yeah, I think the business angle of it, I completely understand. It makes a lot of sense, but like, I look at this from like the fun consumer motorcyclist angle of it. You know, like, this isn't a business channel. I'm not going to be like, Suzuki stock price is high, so they're doing great. I don't give a shit about that. I give a shit about cool motorcycles. And an old GSXR with winglets does not get me very excited, unfortunately. The last thing I wanted to mention is kind of worth discussing, because they hyped this big reveal. We thought in my wildest of dreams, I thought maybe the whole GSXR lineup was going to get updated and like everything, new beginner bike and all this stuff, because we were looking at Suzuki's website and I was like, their entry level offerings are so bad right now. The GSX-250 is really the only thing they have, and then a $9,000 DRZ. So again, cheap, affordable, like entry level bikes from Suzuki. That is a myth. They literally don't make anything for the entry level category right now. Nothing.
Right. And it's maybe people are thinking about like all the cheap used. It's kind of like it's like a used Suzuki is typically kind of a safe bet unless it's a GSXR 600 track bike. No offense.
Yeah. Not taken. But that was a yeah.
But typically it's often a safe bet. Maybe that's what people think of, and a lot of these Suzuki simps, they just don't quite have their finger on the pulse like we do. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on.
But we do.
We should title this video "Documenting the Suzuki Crash Out in Real Time," because that's what I think.
That's a good alternate title.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I think it sort of is. Is this like they're like kind of in their like death spiral?
Yeah, but that's what I said from a business angle. Not really, because the stock is decently
from a culture.
Yeah, I think from the culture and like the long term vision, it kind of feels like a Harley Davidson thing where I'm like, eventually you can't keep running this forever. It feels like a little scheme they got going. And I'm like, this is unsustainable. Like you cannot sell GSXR 750s in this unchanged form ad infinitum. You cannot do that. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and then they're gonna hire a gay CEO, a gay socialist CEO, and it's gonna be all downhill from there.
It's all downhill. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I think too, and again, we're two American blokes. Yeah. The response has been very high from the European Suzuki enthusiasts.
Yes.
Because they're like, we finally have the GSXR 1000 back. We finally have it back. For people living in a place where it never went away, it means a lot less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I literally don't care.
And so I think with, the R1 being discontinued in Europe, the GSXR 1000 being discontinued in Europe, it coming back is kind of more of a symbolic gesture of like Suzuki being like, hey, we're still here. And people are like, that's so sick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also think it's kind of hilarious that the Japanese manufacturers, like, they think so little of Americans, or like our requirements for selling bikes here are so little. There's like, let's keep selling these morons leader bikes, like, because they can't really do it in Europe anymore. Like, people aren't really buying them, but they're like, Americans will keep buying leader bikes. They're idiots. For sure. So sick. Anything else to say on the GSXR 1000? I think that's about it, huh?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think next time they announce that they're going to make an announcement, which is also the most annoying thing. I understand that's how marketing works, but in any industry, but it's like, don't make an announcement that you're going to make an announcement. Just make the announcement.
Yeah, don't make us wait.
But next time you do, Suzuki does that, I'm going to have even less faith that it's going to be something exciting.
Maybe. Yeah. So we will see. Hopefully we get a brand new, not so super sport bike, or I guess next generation super sport, whatever the hell we're calling it nowadays. Towards the end of the year at EICMA, Suzuki has been saying that they're going to invest back in the super sport category. Hopefully this wasn't what they were talking about, because that's pretty boring. But yeah, that's the GSXR 1000R news. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.